So in order to get all the wiring away from this front core support, which I'm going to replace, what I've done is I've taken all of these little clips and pushed this harness out through these holes. You can see this one's still installed. You can just use a pair of pliers or a screwdriver. And then the wiring harness kind of separates from the core support in large pieces. And one thing over here on these Toyotas is you have this fuse block, and the wiring harness that comes through this core support here clips in on these two large clips in this fuse block. And so with a screwdriver you can just take those, unclip that. Sometimes those can be a pain. And that main harness will come out, and you can peel that stuff back out of your way so that you don't have to worry about any of that wiring getting damaged when you're cutting, grinding, welding. And then you can just continue to unbolt stuff and strip the remaining pieces away from each fender skirt so that you get access far enough towards the firewall to where you're going to make your cut and peel this out. So you can see I've got a little more things to disassemble before I'm ready to actually slice this front core support off. Okay, so I've got the fuse block pretty well disconnected, and I want to show a couple of things here. This is the wire that goes directly to the battery cable, and what somebody had done in the past is just taken some regular strands of wire and then put it directly underneath of that bolt. And to ensure that I take the time and fix it, when I put it back together, I just went ahead and broke this off. The vehicle will not start without this connected up to it. On top of that, on the ground side of the battery connections, somebody just decided that it needed an additional ground wire, probably because they were having some starting problems. And the reason they were having some starting problems was because some bad connections between the battery and the cable itself. So they went ahead and put a regular solid core house wire directly over to a body bolt on this inner fender panel. So we're going to go ahead and fix that stuff. See, that just gets pushed in there like that. Fix that stuff, put some good cables on this, and repair that. On top of that, you can see how this main harness just comes loose from the vehicle, and we're just going to kind of fold it up like that so that we have some better access to this fender panel, so we can cut it out and continue on. So I'm going to clean up this stuff, get this separated, and then move over to this side, take the fender off, take the air box out, and decide exactly how I'm going to cut this one off, and then we'll go ahead and cut it, remove it, and then start to piece the new one on. So the wiring harness on the driver's side comes apart a little differently. Once you get the fender off, you can remove this big boot here, and then go inside the truck. So there's the upper connector for the wire harness, and then that's where the lower one goes. Then you can just feed that harness out through the fender well. So here you get a better look at that wire harness and the major grommet. And then this you can just peel away from the core support and then feed both harnesses back through this big hole right here. And then that'll open up the rest of this so that we can get up beyond the damaged portion of the core support. And it's just got a little crinkle right there is all that we need to really be concerned about. So we'll probably come up in this area to make our splice. So we're in the driver's side wheel well, and you can see this really sharp crease in the inner fender panel. So we need to actually do our splice farther up, closer to the firewall. And in order to do that, we need to remove the splash shield. And I found the easiest way to do that is with some pair of needle nose pliers like this. Try to get in behind that and pry them out. Inevitably, sometimes you break them, but if you can, try to get those disassembled without busting them so you can reuse them. So I've got all the wiring harnesses, all the lines, everything peeled away from the front half of the core support and inner fender wells on both sides, the driver and the passenger side. And I've also removed both of the two front core support bolts that actually bolt down to the frame. And what I want to do now is I want to decide which holes I'm going to use for my alignment holes. And I'm going to use this one here. We'll use this one here. And then I'll choose a couple more on the inside. And what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to cut on this side of these alignment holes. So my cut is actually going to go kind of like this. And then it's going to go all the way down into the fender well. And this cut does not have to be perfectly straight. You just want to make sure that it's far enough past your crumple zone so that you know that you're in good solid square sheet metal. Okay, then on the new core support, you want to find those same holes, which was this one and this one, and you want to actually cut on the opposite side of those holes. So we're going to cut up here, down around here, and then inside you can see I want to cut on the other side of those holes so that I have enough material so that I can then take this and overlap it on the new one. So you want to just do that on both sides and then cut the core support out. So the tool of choice when you decide to cut this is a reciprocating air saw. Definitely want to use safety glasses and earmuffs because this gets really, really loud. So I got everything cut, and one thing I forgot to mention, before you start cutting, make sure that you remove the factory prop rod if you still have the hood on your truck, and just put something else in there so that when you do cut it all off, the hood doesn't come crashing down. Now, everything should be loose enough to where we can peel this piece off, and it'll kind of fight you a little bit, but as you can see, comes off in one big chunk. So now I've got the new core support set kind of over top of the old core support, and I've got a bunch of just kind of miscellaneous hardware. And what we're going to do is you want to just kind of wrestle this new core support in position until some of the holes line up so that you can get a bolt to go through them. And this is just kind of temporary to kind of hold everything together so that you can make sure everything gets lined up. And what you want to do is you want to look at some of the holes and then make sure that they're exactly lined up like this one. And then just snug up those bolts. These other holes will take a little bit of kind of pressure to get bolts and nuts in them. So you want to just use your holes, put the bolts and nuts on, and then snug that stuff up so that you know for sure that these panels from this point forward are exactly aligned where they need to be. And the next thing I'm going to show you as to how to actually weld these two panels together so that they are perfectly aligned exactly where they were originally, so that it's seamless to go from the old panel to the new panel. So we've got our new core support setting in position. It's indexed on the locating bolt holes. And we can see now that this passenger side corner of the frame rail doesn't even come close to lining up with our core support. The driver's side does. And so at this point, with the core support loosely bolted in position, I'm going to load this truck on the trailer. We're going to drop it off at the frame shop. They're going to put it on a frame rack, and they're going to straighten out this corner here so that the core support mounting bolt lines up, and we know that the frame is straight and everything is good.